Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is your friend Munzology here with you again in For Honor. Now, as you all are aware, the Season 12 content is just around the corner, and the creators of For Honor have so kindly graced us with a myriad of new executions, or as I will now be calling them from now on, finishers, or executions. I don't know. I think that I'll have to call them finishers in like the YouTube title, because I think execution is one of those trigger words that will like flag my video. I don't know. So, finishers, executions, they're the same thing. Now, because we have such an abundance of new executions for all of the heroes in For Honor, I wanted to present to you my own tier list for all of these new executions. My tier list is in the categories of C tier, B, A, and S tier, with C tier being, you know, some of the more basic, or the worst, if you will. And we will go to the S tier, which are some of the coolest executions I have seen yet in For Honor. Now, we will be judging all of these executions by three things: brutality, flair, and overall coolness. If each of these executions, well, if an execution has all three of these things, it'll make it into the S tier, okay? Within these tiers, they are not in any particular order. I don't think one's better than the other. All of them are winners when they get into their tier. So let's get into this thing, and let's have some fun looking at these new executions. Starting off in the C tier, we have our Black Prior, whose new execution called Erzsébet's Prowess. And you can see here, he starts it off with the leg slash and then stabs him through the neck and then goes out the side of the neck with the shield. Very basic. There's not a lot of flair to it. There is a fair amount of brutality, but overall coolness is so-so. Next up, we have our friend the Warlord, whose new execution is called Can't Punch This. Now, the style of this execution, he's got a lot of evading going on. Obviously, can't punch this. Everybody's going for his face, but he keeps blocking with the shield. Gives him a nice little smooth slash into the movement. But yet again, not really cool. Like, yeah, it is kind of cool, I guess. The brutality's not really there, and the overall flair is lacking. Next in the C tier, we have the Orochi, whose new execution is called Seijuro's Finesse. Now, Seijuro's Finesse it's actually very basic. It's a lot like many other of the Orochi's executions. He starts off with a big old stab through the neck, and then finishes off with the decapitation. It's actually really cool to watch. I won't lie. Really cool to watch, but yet again, it's kind of basic, you know? The brutality's lagging. It's too much finesse, if you will. Overall coolness is pretty up high, but still in the C tier. Moving along in the C tier, we come to Kiri, who unfortunately is in the C tier. She's one of my favorite characters, so I'm kind of sad that she has one of the more basic executions. Her execution is called Yato's Parasite. Now, obviously, there's a lot of chopping with the big axe, forces him down to the knees, and then finishes off with an overhead. And that's it. Lots of chopping, lots of forcing. Her other executions that she already has are cooler. There's just not a lot going on here. So, stuck in the C tier. I am sorry, Kiri. And now we have the Nobushi next up in C tier. Her new execution is called Momiji's Efficiency. So it starts off looking like it's going to be an awesome execution, but then I think it's the holding back part there at the end, like right here. It's that part that kind of ruins it for me, because she already has another execution that does just that, and it just kind of, it's a bit of a letdown, to be honest, just a bit of a letdown. So that's why she's in C tier. And now we come to the last hero in our C tier, which is the Nusha from the Wulin clan. Her new execution is called Merciless Spiral. Now, again, it actually starts off pretty cool, but it doesn't really go anywhere with it, you know? Merciless Spiral, it sounds like it's gonna be cool, but she doesn't really do a lot with it. You're kind of expecting more. She starts off with the kick, with like the defensive kick, and then goes for the decapitation. Yes, there's brutality there. Not a lot of flair though. And overall coolness, it's kind of low. So that's why she's in C tier. Okay, moving on to B tier executions. Starting off in the B tier, we have Peacekeeper. Her new execution is called the Wing Breaker. Now she starts off pretty cool here, gets him down to the knees, inserts second weapon, voila, you have wings. So there is a lot of flair to this. I really like how from the beginning, she gets in the stab, she gets him down to the knees with that little hop jump, and then right there she kind of like shakes her hands, you know, getting a little bit of flair in there. That's pretty cool. The brutality though is kind of lacking, you know. It's like, this is for honor, you know, simple stabs are just not going to cut it. Overall coolness, yeah, it's there, but she still stays in B tier. Next up we have the Conqueror in B tier. Now, the Conqueror was almost going to be in C tier, if not for the beginning of his execution. So, his execution is called Head in the Clouds. It starts off with a cool little trip up with the shield there, and then he stabs him in the back with it. But then he finishes off like he does with 80% of his other executions. He just swings the flail around for a second and decapitates him. Same old, same old. There's not a lot of new stuff going on here, so that's why he's in B tier. Next in the B tier, we have Valkyrie. Her new execution is called Through and Through. Now, yet again, this is actually another variation of her sticking her spear through her opponents and then ripping it out the other side. Although she does do this one with a lot of flair this time. With the backhand spear throw. It says a little cool line there. I have no idea what it means, and then just yanks it out after giving a little laugh at her opponent. So there's a lot of flair going on here. The brutality's there, but overall coolness, you know, she's done this before, so it's not quite gonna get her into the higher tiers. So that's why she stays in B tier. Moving on to Kensei in B tier. Now, I was actually personally kind of torn with this one because I think this execution that he does is actually super cool. It's like overall coolness is way up there. His new execution is called the Daimyo's Verdict. Starts off with the hamstring slash so they don't go anywhere. Says an awesome little line in Japanese, and then execution style just across the throat. Now, the reason why I'm torn, like I said, it's really cool, but you know, it's just the brutality's there as well, but not a lot of flair. You know, it's very simple. But it's just really cool though. So this one possibly could go to A tier if you convince me. So don't forget to comment about it. All right, see if you can change my mind. Now we're coming up to Tiandi in B tier. Tiandi's B tier execution is actually pretty cool, you know. There's a lot of BM going on right here. His new execution is called Keep Trying. Now the sound for this one is kind of messed up, but I'm not factoring that in. So Keep Trying. He gets into the execution and he tosses his sword to the opponent and says, "Hey, have a shot." But then very basic, you know, maneuvers, blocking, kind of redirecting force and whatnot. Not a lot of flair here. I'm giving it a B tier because of the coolness. There is flair, I should say, but the brutality, you know, it's not quite there. Yeah, he cuts off an arm right here. Oh no, never mind. Yeah, right. Oh, I'm mistaken. Sorry. He cuts off the head at the end. But not enough brutality, you know, just not enough. Next up in the list is Jang Jun with his new execution, Slammed Head. Starts off with an overhead slam to the head, goes with an uppercut, and then finishes with a slice. Now, I'm putting this in B tier purely because of the sound that he makes when he slams into the head. Listen to this. I just love that sound of metal on metal. Just bong. So, yet again, the coolness, not really there. Flair, he's got a little bit of it, but the brutality, not really. We're not cutting off any limbs, so he stays in B tier. Last but not least in B tier is the Shaolin. Now, this is another one that I'm a little torn about, just because of like the homage it pays to a very prominent martial arts character in film. So this execution is called Mischievous Kill, and we're taking it back to the Bruce Lee days with the quick strikes and all of the noises that he makes. If you can listen here. And yes, that is actually kind of Shaolin's whole thing, but this reminds me a lot about Bruce Lee. And I actually kind of like how he doesn't use his weapon to take him out. Like, his strikes are so efficient that he can kill you through your armor with his bare hands. So the overall coolness is there. Brutality, not so much. And flair is there as well. So, again, you guys can comment on this one and see if you can change my mind and put him into A tier. Alright, ladies and gents, we are getting into the top 2 tiers of our tier list. Tier A, starting off with the Warden here. Now her new her new execution, there you go, is called Hilarious' Wrath. Now this one has a lot of brutality to it. It has a lot of overall coolness, because just look at that, just, oh my gosh. Just giving it to him right there. 4 punches to the face. Yes, very similar to the Shaolins, but just overall coolness to this. It is a badass execution. Just letting all of that rage fly and finishing him off with style right there. Moving on to the Centurion in the A tier. His new execution is called Spina ad Brachium. Whoops. Spina ad Brachium. Now he starts off with a huge stab to the spine, but then he pushes it through and rips it out the side of the abdomen, taking the arm with it. Now the brutality on this one is through the roof. So cool to watch as well. And overall flair, though, is not quite there. There's not a lot of flair. Oh, but that initial slam into the spine is so cool to watch. Nevertheless, he stays in A tier. Moving on in the A tier, we come to the LoBringer. Now, I was, again, torn between putting him in the S tier or keeping him in A tier, but I think I have a good reason for keeping him in the A tier. His new execution is called the Horse Rider. Now, the developers at Ubisoft have embraced the meme entirely. Freaking having him include his horse riding emote in an execution. The flair is through the roof on this one. There's a lot of flair. I think the coolness is actually pretty cool. I like how the developers actually came up with this. They okayed this execution. But the reason why he's in A tier is because there's not a lot of brutality. Like, all he does is slice the throat there at the end. I want more. I want more. Take the head away or something. But he stays in A tier. Moving on to Berserker in the A tier. His new execution is called Almost Dropped It. Now I always enjoy watching Berserker's executions because they're just really funny. Although this one does not end in a flairish way, I really like how he messes up this throw and just hits him with the flat of that axe. Takes the arm away, so the brutality is there, but then just ends up slicing the throat to end the execution. So I'm putting it in A tier because of the flair. It's just so funny to watch right there. But he does not move on to S tier because, you know, he doesn't finish the execution in the same brutal way. And now we come to Shinobi. Now, Shinobi has been known to have some of the worst executions in For Honor. Like, he is so boring to watch with his executions, but the developers have given him something really nice this time around in Season 12. His execution is called Throwing Stars. We are embracing the Naruto origins here. So it starts off with the kick, pretty basic. Throws the 2 throwing stars into the chest and ends up with his giant one, just like in the Naruto series. It's actually really funny. When I first saw this, I laughed a lot. And I thought it was super cool. So the coolness level is way up there. The flair is way up there. And the brutality is there as well, you know? Maybe this should be in the S tier. See if you can change my mind about it. And rounding off the A tier in executions is Shugoki. Now, I'm kind of sad that Shugoki doesn't end up in the S tier, but even though his new execution is pretty brutal, it's pretty basic at the same time. Now, his new execution is called Okuma's Fling. Starts off with the backhand, the disrespect, but then he shoves the handle of his big old Kanobo through the throat of his enemies. Right here. Ooh! That's nasty. And then finishes off with a big old belly bump. The coolness factor, so there. I love it. Brutality, so there. But it's just a little too basic for me, I think. I really enjoy his other previous executions that came out. Those would definitely be in the S tier. But this one will stay in A tier. And now we come to the final tier, the S tier. This is some of the best of the executions. We got all the flair, we got all the coolness, we got all the brutality. Starting off in the S tier, we have Gladiator. His new execution is called Knock It Off. It starts off with the classic toe stab. Gives him the BM with 2 slams to the face and then finishes with a flick. Like, the brutality here is astounding here. Give him 2 smacks to the face, but then I thought when I first saw this, I thought he was gonna rip that foot off or something, rip off the leg, but he doesn't, and he just flings his pitchfork, oh my gosh, his trident, there you go, just flings his trident back into his opponent's face. A lot of flair to this one, and I thought it was really cool. So, congratulations, Gladiator, for making it into the S tier. Next up, we have Raider making it into the S tier with his new execution, So Bullet. Coming in like an NFL linebacker. Just totally demolishes this guy. Flips him in the air, turns around, and then punches his axe right through his stomach into the ground. Like, the coolness factor here is so awesome. I love it. And then the brutality, yes, there's a lot of brutality here. Just brute strength. Oh my gosh, overkill. And I believe that there's some pretty good flair here, you know? Like, he decides to just use brute strength here, say, hey, I don't need my weapon to take you down. Flings him over the shoulder, finishes him off, ends up in the S tier. And now we come to the Highlander. Now, if I were to pick a favorite out of all of the new executions, I think the Highlanders is my favorite execution. His new execution is called Done My Smash. Stabs him through the neck, yanks it all the way to the hilt, slams him down in position for a head stomp. Oh my gosh. The brutality of it. You know, if it makes you wince a little bit while you're watching, that's a good thing. Oh my gosh, slams the sword down. I love it. There's a lot of flair here. There's a lot of unnecessary brutality. It's like he stabs him through the neck. No, that's not enough. Pull it all the way through and then pin you to the floor. And then get off my sword. Oh, so cool. Love it. Next up is the Jormungandr, whose new execution is just as brutal, if not more, than the Highlanders. Her new execution is called Hammerhead. Totally obliterates the enemy's head and then shoves her hammer down the throat of the decapitated body. Oh my gosh. Makes you a little queasy just watching it. But hey, the coolness factor here is there just because of the complete disrespect that is being given. It's just like, I did this, but it doesn't look that good. So, There's definitely flair. You know, she doesn't have to shove the hammer all the way down in there. And oh my gosh, the brutality. The brutality. That puts her in S tier. Now, we come to the Shaman, whose new execution is called Had a Blast. Now again, you know, this is a little simple. But just that laugh there at the end, I think, is a big factor in putting her in the S tier. Now the brutality here is awesome. Not only is she playing with dead bodies, but she starts off by pinning the feet to the floor. Uses a grenade, basically knocks the guy out, and right there, laughs at the dead body being flung about by the grenade. Super cool execution, brutality's there, and there's flair, so it's in S tier. Now, last but not least, we come to the Aramusha, the last hero to be entered into the tiered list. He makes it into the S tier. He makes it into the S tier purely by style. I believe that the Aramusha has the most stylish execution out of everybody this season. So his new execution is called Rebel Just for Kicks, or Rebel Just for Kicks. I mean, look at that. The precision and the flair. I mean, holy cow. He starts off by throwing one sword, doing the toss and the kick into the second one, both of them through the heart, and then just shatters the heart with that little tug with the swords, and then finishes off with a kick to the head just for good measure. See right here, shatter the heart, and then sit down. Definitely the most style out of everybody here. The coolness factor is way over the top, and the brutality is there as well. So that's why Aramusha makes it into the S tier. Well, there you have it, folks. There is my presentation of all of the Season 12 executions in a tier list of my own. Now, you are all free to comment with your own suggestions of where I should put all of these new executions. If you guys want to see more videos like this, don't forget to tell me, please. I really do enjoy making these videos for you guys. So don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.